Hello and welcome to the show. And if you've recently subscribed and you're new around here, welcome. Today we're going to talk about shadow work. So, what is shadow work? Is it just a buzz term, or is it the key to personal growth and self enlightenment? Now, I'll hold my hands up here. I first came across the term shadow work through memes on Facebook. But it turns out that it's been around for over 100 years. It was created by the psychoanalyst Carl Jung. It's a very complex subject, a very interesting subject. And I've got a guest with me today who's an expert on the subject. She's a shadow work coach. Her name is Caroline Reilly. And here she comes. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, Paul. Hi.
How are you? All right?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. I've got two 1-year-old kittens that are keeping me up at night and causing mayhem. But apart from that, I'm not too bad at all. So I thought we could start by you sharing with us what you think or how you would interpret shadow work and how you got started on the journey.
Okay, so basically, shadow work is a system of recognizing what is unconsciously guiding your actions, thoughts, perceptions, behavior, the people that you attract, your life experience. So it's what is unconsciously guiding all of that, really. And the idea behind it is that once you understand what is unconsciously guiding you, and you understand that most of what is guiding us is usually based in fear, usually from trauma from childhood, or maybe not just from childhood, but from any other time, and our social and cultural conditioning. So if you imagine yourself, Paul, when you were first born, a beautiful baby, perfect, without sin, as we all are. And then you go through, you're reared from your parents, and you are kind of shaped into various different, shapes, I guess. So it's all of those influences and all of those experiences that make you who you are. And so when you go back and you understand why there are certain things about your personality that are kind of keeping you back, then you can kind of move forward. So the shadow is where you keep the repressed parts of your personality. So imagine, let's just say you as a 2-year-old, if you went to nursery, the first couple of weeks would have been really difficult, and you would have had some trauma there because you would have had the separation trauma from the mother. I'm just giving you an example. And the trauma of that would have been that you would have cried and you would have released it. And as you would have got older, you would have understood that your crying doesn't really get you anywhere, unfortunately. And then you learn to suppress. And then you go through the school system, and even you suppress even more. And we suppress until we end up, usually having a midlife crisis. Something else happens, some kind of loss, or something happens, and everything comes up. And it's at that point that you need to go back to the roots of your triggers, your fears, the problems you've had in your relationships. All of those things, they usually stem at their roots. They go back down to sort of childhood and other things that have happened. And then once you understand those things, then you hopefully are in a better position to deal with your triggers in new ways, to make better choices for yourself, to let go of some of that conditioning, to become more authentically you. Basically, you become more conscious as an individual, and you work and you walk more in alignment with your authenticity. You look confused, Paul.
I always look confused, to be honest with you. It's just the way I look. I'm not as confused as I look, I promise you. I'm following everything you're saying. So basically, it's the things about ourselves that we sweep under the carpet because they evoke discomfort.
Yeah.
And those things, as a result, those things then manifest in negative personality traits.
The negative personality traits are what are like the indicators to notice your shadow. And your triggers, and the things that you're scared of, and your complexes. So it's those things that will show you where your shadow is. So if you think about any time that you're, say, jealous, bitter, angry, any sort of outburst of rage, anything that triggers you, anything that upsets you, those are the triggers to notice the indicators to notice your shadow. And so let's just say you have a problem with jealousy. Let's just say it's been a feature in some previous relationships. You look for the roots of that. First of all, yeah, you look for the roots of it, and then you understand that you come to an idea or an understanding that all of those more negative personality traits, they usually stem from something which is lacking love. Because if you imagine yourself, Paul, as a baby, you respond to love. That's what everyone is when we're first born, and it's usually the violations of love that make a child become fearful. That means that their needs are unmet, all that sort of stuff, and it creates a fear, and it creates a complex sometimes. So it's just about really understanding who we are. And I think it's at the entrance of Delphi, it says, know thyself. And then it also says, as above, so below, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I do believe that the most work that any of us have to do is the work on ourselves, is to understand who we are. Really, it's about knowing the truth of who we are. And how, like, our social and cultural conditioning has affected us, how the childhood home has affected us, how the atmosphere between the parents has affected us, our relationship to our parents, their unconscious projections onto us. All of that stuff goes to shape us into who we become, until we get to the point, as I said, where there's usually like a midlife crisis, a spiritual awakening, an existential crisis, depression, whatever, loss of job, whatever it is. There's usually a midlife crisis type thing. They call it dark night of the soul in Jungian terms, and that kind of leads most people onto a path. And what I'm noticing as well is that for most people who go down this path, they would have been the outsiders. They would have been the ones at school who always felt a bit different, who were a bit weird, who couldn't quite sort of fit into the way things are. And then these people usually end up being like truthers, and people that are interested in alternative research and alternative health and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because I guess really a lot of this would appeal to a lot of people, or should appeal to a lot of people that have had the awakening experience.
It should do. And you did mention something at the beginning about shadow work being a fad, like it kind of like the next sort of, everyone's kind of jumping on the bandwagon of shadow work. Carl Jung didn't actually create this idea of shadow work. He created the idea of the shadow. So the concept of the shadow is different to shadow work. We collectively, I don't know who, but I've kind of fallen into this line of how to do it. And it's when you study Carl Jung, you can take his concepts and you can call it shadow work. It's just really a name to describe the great work, alchemy, consciousness, higher consciousness. It's a bit of a fad, a buzzword. It's a buzzword at the moment, but really it is about understanding who we are, what shaped us, and then coming to terms with that, I guess, our darker side, if you want to call it that, because we all have the potential for evil. Paul, we all have the potential for evil, put in the right situation or the wrong situation, however you want to see it. So and we've all been guilty of, I guess, manipulation to some extent in relationships, perhaps, or anger, rage, blah blah blah. And it's just about understanding where that comes from, and being honest about it, because we all kind of, Carl Jung talks about the persona. So the persona is like the mask that we show in public. So I'm not going to come here, sort of like dressed in my, I don't know, whatever. I'm showing my best face. I've tidied up. Okay, so this is the persona, but this isn't all I am. There's also me when I'm sitting on the sofa watching TV. There's various different aspects to who we are, and we are sort of, I think, until we come to this work, we're sort of different with different people and different social groups. Until you kind of get to the point where you think, actually, I really want to just stay in my authenticity here. And I think that comes a bit with maturity. And it comes with self-reflection. And that's really what shadow work is. It's self-reflection at its core.
Fantastic. So that's a brilliant explanation. I'm still confused as to how one goes about actually doing shadow work. How do you actually go about doing it? What are the various methods involved?
There are various different methods. I mean, the probably the first and most important one. Well, Carl Jung talks about dream work as being one really important method. So I've another way you can do it is to join my Inner Alchemy program. So my Inner Alchemy program has just started, and I've got some people on, and I told them all to read Jung, and we had our first couple of modules. One of them was dissolving the false self. I can't remember what the rest of them were. But what's happened is very early on, these people are just having dream after dream after dream. And it's like the psyche is just saying, here, this is it, this is who you are. And if you can understand, if you can read symbolism, then, you know, the dream is showing them. And it's pretty tough. And, you know, I created the program in Alchemy. It's based on the course that I did. So when I was living in Tipperary many years ago, I did a course called Jungian Psychology with Art Therapy, and it was a brilliant course. And it was, you know, based on Carl Jung's work. And the idea was that we worked on ourselves, and so we did like expressive arts, art therapy, obviously, and we read a lot of Jung. And we had an online group. And so when I left that course, I thought they should make this online because it's a life changer, and, you know, everyone should be able to access it. But I didn't know then that I was going to do it. I was going to actually do it. But I did start writing certain things, you know, probably about 4 years ago. And yeah, and then it just kind of all came together really at the same time. But so anyway, yeah, dream work is one way that you do it. Also journaling. Any kind of art making. Jung says that sometimes the hands can solve a riddle which the intellect has wrestled with in vain. So if you've got a problem that you keep on going over, there's no way out, you're kind of, there's no right answer. We've all been in that situation. It's like, well, that's shit. And that, you know, both options are bad. Which do I take? That sort of thing. It's called tension of opposites. It's where a third thing can sometimes kind of come. But if you use your hands and with intent, and you do any art making, any music, anything to do with you know, being creative, you can, you know, sometimes something is born and you might not even know it. It can be like something is born within you. There's like a change, a switch, just something's different. You go to bed, you might have a dream, you might not, but you wake up and suddenly it's spring. Or, you know, not really spring outside, but inside you, things feel different. And so there is this idea that if you hold the tension of opposites long enough, and that really means kind of sitting with your shadow and sitting with your darkness, suddenly something new is born. But it's being conscious of that, because, you know, if you're sitting in sort of what's the word, in like depression, and you're just wallowing in it, instead of consciously saying, I'm going to use this as a building block to make myself better, to understand myself more, then it can be overwhelming, and it can just leave you further deeper in depression than you were. But it's the conscious intention. So anyway, I'd start with journaling and being creative, being out in nature. Nature is very healing.
Yeah.
Another good one is to build on your spirituality, your connection with whatever you think is up there, whether it's God or a universe or creator or whatever it is that you think it is. I do think that that's one of the things that's really missing in our world, is that we don't have any we don't have connection with what I would call God, or, you know, universal creator or whatever. And I think that energy is, you know, encapsulates the father energy as an archetype. And I think that if we have, as part of the healing process, if we have a connection with God, or whatever you call it, and we have a connection with nature, which is the female aspect, within us is the masculine and feminine, and we somehow can create a balance within that, especially for those who've had sort of negative, or let's just say challenging experiences of their own personal mother and father. Then that can be a very healing aspect, is to have that connection with, as above so below, with God, Father and Mother Earth.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. Okay, So, yeah, so I don't have to be sitting in a dark room somewhere doing this. I could be out walking through the woods. I could be over at my
Yeah,
allotment,
yeah.
growing my veggies or whatever and digging, and I could be doing the shadow work outside in nature. That's great. Okay. Um, what are the various archetypes involved in shadow work?
Well, the two major archetypes is mother and father, or feminine and masculine. Carl Jung talks about something called anima and animus, and it's a really difficult concept to grasp. It's almost like kind of trying to catch a dream, it's like impossible. And I've read a lot about the subject, and I've written a workbook about it, and it's really lengthy. And it's the whole workbook is anima and animus integration, and then also reclaiming the masculine and feminine. So I didn't split it into this is for men and this is for women. I could do, but I haven't. The reason why is because I wanted for men to see what it is that I think Jung was talking about in terms of them integrating their inner feminine and their own masculinity. The reclaiming of the masculine for men now is important because we have so many feminized men. That this is the reason why, and there are many reasons why. There's like estrogen in the clothes, like there's estrogen in the water. I think that the masculinity is kicked out of children, sort of psychically in school. Anyway, I've worked with children for over 20 years. I've seen this in school. As soon as a boy shows any kind of authority, it's just like no,
We're told,
you
yeah, we're
go on,
told that
sorry.
masculinity is toxic, aren't we now?
Uh-huh.
It's a, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is why you've got to reclaim your mind as well, because that's just, it's done for a reason. And you can see it. You can see it when you're walking out. If you go to a play park and you see all the dads with their kids, you can almost see it around. They're very physical signs sometimes. No, it's not always physical, but sometimes you can see it physically, especially when you're talking about the masses. You can kind of see. But
Well,
yeah,
there's a lot of
sorry.
sorry. I was going to say there's a lot of weak male characters on TV. I'm thinking of Homer Simpson and people like that, and I think it's very much a case of monkey see, monkey do, isn't it?
Yeah, Daddy Pig. They've really sort of yeah. There's no authority at all with men with a lot of masculine, especially young boys as well. I'll give an example. I wasn't very well recently. Remember, we had to cancel, and I had to go into A&E a couple of weeks ago. And I was there. I'm fine now anyway. But when I was there, there was this woman, and she obviously had mental health problems. And they had these police officers coming because she just 1 minute she was laughing, next minute she just split and she just started wrecking the place, screaming. She was really crazy, and we all had to leave for our own good. But they called in the police, and these children came in wearing like costume. That's what they were this big. These boys came in, and they were shorter than me. They were down to like here, and they looked like they were wearing like costume. They had no authority. They were police officers. They came to sort her out. And I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's like we rely on these people to keep us safe, I guess. I don't really trust them that much, but in a situation like that, you'd hope that they'd have some authority. No authority. It's not just the height. It was just that there was nothing in their voice. There was nothing to. So it's scary. It's scary now. So yeah, a part of the. I'll just go back, right. So for men to integrate their feminine, it's they have to look at the relationship they had with their mother. That's the foundation for their animus. So however their relationship was with their mother is how they will relate to women for the rest of their lives. And so if they had in any way a difficult relationship with their mother, they're going to have a lot of work to do in order to in order to heal themselves and to be able to have good relationships with women. Otherwise, there will always be an unconscious, silent hatred towards women, especially if the mother was abusive in any way, like emotionally or physically, in any way. That there will be a lot of healing to do, and how the father shows up for the man when he was a boy also will affect his masculinity. And what I'm finding now, Paul, is that I feel like this time in our evolution, society's evolution, we're at a time now where we don't have the wise elders. me, you, and our generation are the wise elders in training. That's what I feel, and we don't have them to fall back on. But the reason why we're in this position now is because we've had the internet and we've been able to access so much information. And so the information that hopefully we can pass down to other young people, because they need to know. Because outside of these circles, what they're doing in schools, with the rainbow and pushing all this pride rubbish and kind of messing around with kids' ideas of their sexuality. My daughter was in year 5, right? So she's 13 now. She came home when she was about 10, quite confused about her sexuality. I was like, no, I know what you are. I know exactly what you are. Don't worry. But the reason why is because their sex education was just pushing these ideas. All of the kids in her class were confused. They started being girlfriends.
It's not so much sex education as sexualization, I think, that's going on now in schools.
It is.
Yeah.
I gave my daughter the option not to go to school, but she's got lots of really great friends there, and so she knows what to look out for.
That's good.
She does, but it is a worry. It's still a worry that you put your children in the hands of these children.
Okay, so just going back to the waking up process, I remember what I woke up. Where are we now? Probably about 20 years ago, just over maybe. And I remember feeling very angry about being lied to, I guess, really, about how the world is shown to us. And of course, so my first reaction was I wanted to tell everyone, and I wanted to tell everyone that was close to me, like my parents. And of course, they were very bemused by what I was telling them. And then I would get very angry, and they would get very defensive, as you do if somebody is angry and kind of getting animated and shouting, etc. And then fast forward to 2020, and we had the pandemic and we had the lockdowns. And I noticed that a lot of people woke up around that time. And this is why I think that shadow work is now even more important for people, because there are so many people out there. When I woke up kind of gradually, I suppose. It was a kind of a natural-ish sort of process. Whereas these people were woke up, bang, they woke up very suddenly. And I've seen a lot of carnage as a result, So that's why I want to try and get this message out on my channel, that I think that people are very traumatized at the moment. We've had like a terrible 4-year period, with what's gone on in the world and what's continuing to go on in the world, I don't know, your thoughts and comments on that.
I have come across a lot of people who are interested in alternative research and truth theory. I guess I haven't had too many people that have woken up recently. Only one, actually, one person that I've been working with sort of face to face with Reiki, and because he's had a sort of Kundalini rising kind of thing. But yeah, I can see that a lot of people that I've been in contact with over the last few years, because I've been online since end of 2019. A lot of them were really angry, and I was also angry, but not to the same point. I guess for me personally, Paul, I just I feel quite compassionate. I feel quite sorry that not everyone can see what we see, and I guess to some degree I've kind of maybe just accepted that there is sort of like there's an outside force trying to polarize people. First of all, there's like this sort of polarization, splitting people, divide and rule. But I also have a lot of friends who did go down that road, and regret it, or maybe don't, or whatever. But they're not bad people. These are people that I've known since I was a young child, and we've been friends all this time. I lost a friend last year, and she had turbo cancer, and she left 3 children. And I remember saying to her years ago, when it all first happened, I'm not having it, and and these are the reasons why you shouldn't. And so that's all we can do. I think that's all we can do is show who we are, and show what we're doing and be role models for whoever. But there is a lot of anger, and it's that kind of anger that's not going to get anyone anywhere. And it's that kind of finger pointing as well that actually really doesn't do anything to help people to get to your way of seeing. I think only certain people that have got a spark of something in them, I don't know what that is, maybe it's a soul, I don't know, something in them, only they will be able to see. If they start questioning themselves, then they're likely to join on your way of thinking. If they're not, then don't bother. I learned this a long time ago. If somebody is not asking for advice, don't give it to them. They won't thank you. They won't take it. All you can do is be a voice for those who see the world the same way that you do. And there is a lot to be angry about, but to hold that anger and to live in that anger is not going to help any. It's not going to help you. It's Absolutely. Just going to, like we're confined here. Like I've been watching a lot of stuff. I've been talking about this every podcast that I do, but I've been watching this podcast called Jeff Mara podcast, and he talks about near-death experiences. Your mate Selena was on it actually. You had an interview with Selena, the psychic. She was on it recently.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
She so he listens to people who have near-death experiences, and they all say the same, that this is a very, very hard place to be. This world that we have, this plane. We come here, it's like a school. When we die, we get shown our life, and we have a past life review, I guess. It's a review. Even Carl Jung spoke about it, because he died before he died. He had a heart attack before he died. And in his sort of remembering of it, that he went to a room and there were all these people and they were showing him, what did you learn? So this for me is a school. We're going to be dead in 40 years, me and you, Paul. We won't be here. There'll be someone else living here, someone else living there. We're only here for a short time. So and there are certain rules and there are certain boundaries. So you do what you can, and you bring in the light as much as you can. You bring in the light, and I don't hate to say love and light, but you bring in the love and you bring in the light, and you also bring in the shadow as well, because it's part of it.
Well, you can't bring in the love and light unless you confront the shadow. I'm right, aren't I? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Because then look, when I first woke up, the first thing I did was I got all of I don't know what her name is, the one who writes The Secret. No, the one who wrote the Secret books. The Secret of Manifestation, all that rubbish.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So Rhonda Byrne, I think her name is. So I got all of her books, and I started really getting heavy into like New Age, and until I realised that it's just like, you can't just be visualising good stuff and hope that it happens. You have to actually go out there and find it. But also, if you're not looking at the darker aspect of your nature, that's not all of you. You have to look at all of it. What part of what really got me thinking this way was, at that time I was thinking, okay, so I want to look at my relationship. At that time I was thinking, I want to look at my relationship not in terms of wanting to be right, but in terms of wanting to know where I've been wrong. And so that really started me off on this idea of radical honesty. And I had to peel back the layers of conditioning, of lies I told myself over years. So I thought I was being very honest with myself, but I wasn't. And so I had made everyone else the perpetrator and myself the victim. I had. And this was, I don't know, 2013, 14, 15, those years. And it took me a good lot of artwork that I had to make to see that, a lot of dreaming, a lot of journaling, a lot of being really honest with myself, a lot of crying, a lot of realizing how I needed to kind of walk in the world differently. A lot of taking away those masks of pretending, oh, I can fit in with this crowd. No, I can't. I can't anymore. I used to, but I don't anymore because it's too much energy. And then I've noticed it's not just me, but lots of other people, when they do this work, they start walking on a new path. And so in order for that to happen, you have to have a bit of chaos. You have to be in a really uncomfortable position for a while, and let that discomfort turn into gold. And that's the alchemy. That's how you turn the shit into gold. That's it.
Brilliant. Okay. What does as a shadow work coach, someone who's obviously learned a lot about this subject, when you go on Facebook, what do you make of all that? I mean, you must see just people's shadows all all over the place, you know, in their comments and their triggers and all the rest of it. Is it a good idea? Probably, I would imagine it's a good idea to come off social media if you're doing your shadow work, probably.
I don't know, to be honest. I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with Facebook.
Me
I
too.
really like memes. I never get into an argument. I never do. I know a lot of people do. Some people just got it in them, and I don't really. I'm not interested. It just takes up too much energy. I've got a lot to do. I'm too busy. I haven't got time to be sitting arguing with people. So I just. I'm a bit slack lately, to be honest, but generally my idea about Facebook is just to put out information, keep it light-hearted, you know, sometimes go in deep, you know, because there are some really some important things for people to learn. I probably need to get better at Facebook, to be honest. Sorry, what was the question? I think I missed the question now.
Well, if you're just browsing on Facebook and you're seeing various
do I see other
people's comments and people's arguments and people's triggers, I guess you must gain quite a lot from looking at that.
I guess, yeah, I do. But, you know, one important part of this work is that when you understand, Carl Jung says that when you understand your own darkness, you're able to understand the darkness of other people. So it's through the shadow work and going through the darkness and then the self-acceptance of it. Then you're able to see other people's, but not to judge harshly, because it doesn't really do anyone. I mean, the other thing I'll say about shadow work is it does actually make you more judgmental, or you at least trust your judgments more, because you know they're usually right. You know, but when you get an inclination or you're judging certain things, I found some people would disagree with me and say, well, no, you haven't integrated your shadow yet then, Caroline. Maybe not, but I feel that I'm able to really understand things a bit better because I can kind of see where things, and for me, that's been about kind of really trusting my intuition. So yeah, I think that what happens is you accept yourself more, then you express yourself more authentically, and people, whether or not they like it or not, there is something that there's something attractive about that, and they feel comfortable then to be themselves as well. So yeah, I just think I can see sometimes in people's dances, but sometimes I see my own as well. I see sometimes that I reply to people and I'm like, oh, hang on, going back to that, maybe there's something in there, because I'm always self-reflecting. So shadow work becomes a way for us to kind of deal with ourselves and deal with life's inevitable difficulties, because they will keep coming up. But it's a way of always looking back at ourselves. But yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just going back to what I was talking about with people that woke up around 2020 with the pandemic. I've felt frustrated along the way sometimes, because I've reached out to a lot of people. I've been like a member of community groups, awake groups in my local community. And most of the members in those groups have been people that have woke up fairly recently because of what happened 4 years ago. But there's this kind of divide between, I've found anyway, between people that have been awake a long time and people that have just woke up. So, and I found myself getting quite triggered at times, you know. I would say to people, you know, protesting and petitioning your enemy is going to get you nowhere. Trust me, I've been there, I've done it, I've seen it. It doesn't work. Oh, no, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. And I found myself over the last 4 years getting quite activated and triggered by these people. So what is that telling me about myself? What can I learn from that?
I guess what you can learn is that you can't save everyone, that it's not your job.
I'm there already. I've worked that one out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I that's not kind of been my sort of my thought. You know, it came from Michael Tesaro, and I heard him say that many years ago. You know, you can't wake up, you can't wake people up. As I said, I think they either have to have the spark or not the spark. I don't know what that spark is, but as I said, most people are usually the outsider types. And you know, you becoming triggered by those who maybe think they know better. They've only just been in this, you know, this game for a short time. That's probably where you're coming from, isn't it? It's like, well, I've been awake for 20 years. So what do you know, sort of thing. Yeah, I guess, you know, as I said, we are the wise elders in the making. I just think you just need to kind of hold that space. I mean, it could be this thing of like wanting to save people. I've got it as well, a little bit of a savior complex. I've got to really watch myself with it because I do want to I like helping people. It gives me something. And that's what you have to also understand, is that it feeds something in you. When you're helping people and you can show them something about themselves, what's that feeding in you, you know? And that also kind of maybe builds you up, as it does with me. It builds up my self-esteem to feel, oh, I'm actually helping that person.
Yeah.
But you have to make sure that it doesn't kind of overshadow what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I would say that's pointing to, that trigger of, you know, maybe it's a bit of like, I know better for you, but, you know, I
Well,
know
I'm
better.
looking back on it now as you're saying that. I'm looking back on the experience, and I think I woke up because I've always been into supernatural stuff, UFOs, ghosts, the paranormal. That led me on to I found a radio station 20 years ago called Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I started listening to that, and then I found Alex Jones.
Hmm.
And I became obsessed with watching Alex Jones every day. And I think that's probably encouraged me to be
Yeah.
that angry person. And I think a bit of that has kind of lingered on through my journey. But as I
I mean,
said,
Paul, it is frustrating. I mean, it is. There's no doubt. I mean, your frustration is what's the word? It's justified. It is justified. I guess it's just like, how much energy do you want to put into it? You know,
exactly.
and what's the effects? Like, how well are you serving other people or yourself by getting that frustrated? How better can you use that energy to do, you know, other things that are going to have better consequences?
Mm.
With me, my mum woke up well before I did. So my mum started waking up in the 90s, and I was like, I guess, a teenager. And then when we got the internet, she started looking into all kinds of stuff. And then every time I'd sort of come and see her, she'd be like, "Oh, Caroline, this is happening." I'd be like, "Oh no, don't start that again. I don't want to know that shit. All I want to do is go on holiday." So my life, I was them until about 2012. So I woke up maybe about 2010. I started understanding about the World Trade Center. I was pregnant with my first daughter, and I started looking into that. I thought, oh, that's not right, and I knew that. And then after I had my first daughter, I started to do a lot of research. I started looking at Santos Bonacci with his work on astrotheology. He's
Yes,
great.
me too. Yep.
Yeah, and then Michael Stein I couldn't get with until for a little while longer. There were lots of other people. I read my first book then about astrology. My mum always had a brilliant bookcase full of stuff, weird and one. I never touched it until I was about 34, 35. Maybe I started reading. Before then, I didn't read. I wasn't interested. I probably would have had that. You know, I was watching
Mm.
Coronation Street when I had my Kundalini rising. So, so
Interesting.
it, so I mean, I guess it's fairly recent, you know, the last maybe 12 years or so that I've been awake to all this stuff. But Michael Tesarian's work really had the most impact on my life in terms of psychology, in terms of symbolism. He is just a wealth of information and knowledge. And yeah, I think many people owe him a great debt of gratitude, really, because yeah, his work it's changed my life and changed lots of people's lives, I think.
Absolutely. Okay. I believe I'm right in saying that you've just started a course on your Inner Alchemy website. I'm very interested in getting going with this. So when does the next course start, Caroline?
I was thinking about doing one in September.
Okay.
September, October is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Because it's really intense work, and it's intense work, and I found that people do need a lot of support through it. So the spaces are going to be limited. They weren't limited this time, but they will be limited next time, because I'll also be doing Reiki with everyone as well, because I can do Reiki for people even if they're not with me. I can do it sort of wherever they are, wherever in the world. So that there's a lot of work there, and I can see that already very intense for these people, and it's already a bit uncomfortable. So, and it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, but you're not supposed to stay there. So
Okay.
with the yeah, so I'll let you know if you're interested.
Brilliant. So in the meantime, that's about 6 months away. So in the meantime, if I wanted to gently start, you know, going into this subject and doing this work for myself, what would you recommend, advise? Where would I start?
I have a shadow work journal and workbook on sale. I think it's about, don't know, under 30 quid or something, and it's online, and that will start taking you through lots of shadow aspects. You know, if you need a guide and you don't have a lot of money, you know, to get a coach, then that's a really good way to start, because it starts asking you questions, and you start to have to be very honest, and sometimes you remember things you forgot, you know. So yeah, intense work.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm much the wiser now, I think, about what shadow work is. And I'd love to have you back on in a few months' time once I really get into this work to ask you some more questions. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll link all your information underneath this video. And I really enjoyed this. So thank you very much, Caroline.
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks.
That's a pleasure.